3.5 Graphing Rational Expressions Review. So we're going to review the steps that we're going to use to help us graph. So remember, we're looking at a rational function, so that's when we're going to have a polynomial over a polynomial with no common factors. So that's one of our key things we need to remember. So we're always going to start off with factoring the numerator and the denominator. So the first thing we're going to look at is symmetry. So we can either use this test of f of negative x, or we can use the idea of even exponents. To tell us if it's symmetric across the y-axis, or odd exponents on every term. Okay, so that's kind of a shortcut, but this is the most accurate method to use. Okay. Second step, we want to find our y-intercept, if there is one, by evaluating f of 0. Remember, another shortcut is to always just use the constants of the numerator and denominator. We're going to find the x-intercepts by solving the equation p of x equals 0. Remember, p of x is our numerator. Then we're going to find any vertical asymptotes by looking at our denominator and setting it equal to 0. Then we're going to find the horizontal asymptote, if there is one, using the rule for determining the horizontal asymptote of a rational function. Remember, this is based off the degree. Okay, if you need to, look back at your notes. And then we're going to plot at least one point between and beyond each x-intercept and vertical asymptote. So remember, this is when we can pick x values and solve for y to find your ordered pairs. Okay. Something else we're going to review is what we need to do when we have a hole in our graph. And then we're also going to talk about our slant asymptotes. Okay. All right, so if we look at this first example, f of x equals x plus 2 over x squared minus 4. Okay. So if we look at use our steps, first thing we want to do is check our symmetry. Okay, and we do that by plugging in f of negative x, which would give us negative x plus 2 over negative x squared minus 4. Okay, negative x plus 2, we can't do anything with that. That's just going to stay the way it is. But negative x squared as a positive x squared minus 4. Okay, and notice our signs didn't completely change, so here we're going to have no symmetry. Okay, remember, the signs all have to change, or they all have to be able to be the same as our original. Okay, so now we're going to find our y-intercept. So we do that by finding f of 0. 0 plus 2 over 0 squared minus 4. So 0 plus 2 is just 2. And 0 squared minus 4 is negative 4, which reduces to be negative 1/2. Okay, so also if you notice, those are the same as your constant. Okay, or the number with no variable. Okay, so before we can find our x-intercepts, that's our next step, is we want to go back and we want to factor our original. So if I go back up here to f of x equals x plus 2 over x squared minus 4, we can factor the denominator. So we have x plus 2 over x plus 2 times x minus 2. And since those x plus 2's cancel, we have 1 over x minus 2, which is what we're actually graphing. Okay. So since we have nothing left in our numerator, we have no x-intercepts. And then we can take that new denominator for our vertical asymptotes. X minus 2 equals 0, which means our vertical asymptote is at x equals 2. Okay. But we also have a hole in our graph. So remember, whenever we cross the numerator and the denominator and they cancel, we have a hole. So we have a hole at x equals -2. So we want to find what that y value would be if we plug that in. So if we plug in -2, we have y equals 1 over -2 minus 2, which would be -1/4. So we have a hole at the ordered pair -2, -1/4. Okay. Next we want to look at our horizontal asymptote. So we're going to look at the degree of our numerator. And we are going to again use this factored form, simplified. So the degree of the numerator is 0, and the degree of our denominator is 1. And since the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator, that means our horizontal asymptote is our y equals 0. Okay, so I'm going to go through and let's go ahead and graph all of this. So we have a y-intercept at -1/2. Okay, we don't have any x-intercepts. We have a vertical asymptote at x equals 2. And then we have a hole at -2, -1/4. And then we have our horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. And I'm going to do that slanted so it's a little easier to see on the x-axis. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dog crying right now. Okay, so now we're going to graph this. Remember, we can only cross through points. So we know we're going to have to go down here. And then come across, go through our open hole, and not cross that horizontal asymptote. And then remember, when we get to the bottom of an asymptote, we jump to the top because our multiplicity is 1. Because here, there's only one x minus 2. It's that first power. And there's your graph.